There we go. So let's get started. If you don't know me, I'm Bert Jackson. I'm the CEO of the Cape Cod Technology Council and want to welcome you all here today. Really thrilled to have Bob Cody with us as our guest for Coffee Q&A. We do these Coffee Q&As every Friday that we don't have a first Friday unless there's a holiday or something like that going on. So just to give you a heads up of what's coming up next, next week is First Friday. So that starts at a little more uncivilized hour of 8 a.m. And our speaker is Bob Familiar, who is the head of the Microsoft Technology Center in Boston. And he's got some interesting subjects to talk about next week. So it's a great opportunity to get a sense of what's happening, on that front. And then let's see if I can remember the Coffee Q&As. Let's see, October 9th is Robin. Help me out.
I don't remember, Bert. I'm sorry.
I know. I should have had this teed up. I'm sorry.
I'll look it up and I'll have it ready for when we close out.
Okay, sounds like a plan. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, please feel free to do so. If you have an interesting link that is appropriate to what we're talking about, do so. If you want to ask a question, pop it in the chat. Robin's going to be our chat moderator today, going forward.
Bert, I got it. October 9th is Dr. Thomas Fredo, who is an expert on thermoscanning technology, which is a hot topic.
Literally.
So looking forward to that. And October 16th is Cape Light Compact, who will be talking about the impact of COVID on energy efficiency programs.
Yep. Sounds good. So that's what's coming up for the next few weeks. Hope that you can join us for those. And today I'm really thrilled to have Bob Cody with us. Bob Cody has been a member of our board for a number of years, 7, 8 years now, Bob, I think.
All right.
On the board of the Cape Cod Technology Council. I first met Bob when he was over at the Cape Cod Community College. Bob and I sat on the Smarter Cape Partnership for a while. And now he is the executive director of Leadership Cape Cod. So Bob, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Bert. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to you and Rob for the invitation.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your background and, what was the path that got you to Leadership Cape Cod?
Well, actually, the path I started in upstate New York. I grew up in Troy, New York. Slowly have made my way east, going first through Connecticut, now into Dennis, where I live. I've been, by training, I'm an organic chemist. I hold a doctoral degree in organic chemistry. I spent most of my career leading and managing global research, development, and engineering organizations for major chemical companies, for 2 major chemical companies, actually. And I stepped away after about 25 years in that area and started my own consulting firm because I wanted some more time. I moved this direction, came out to the Cape. I was fortunate enough to purchase a home. And my purpose was simply to find enough clients so I could justify coming out and going to the beach and playing golf occasionally. That morphed into a full-time role at Cape Cod Community College. And one of the opportunities I had while I was at 4Cs was to participate in the Community Leadership Institute program, or CLI. And for me, that was kind of that was a change in terms of my understanding of what the Cape was all about. And I left the college to, again, go back to consulting, to do some other things. And the opportunity opened up as the CLI was looking for an executive director. And for me, I thought it was, let me say it this way. Through my years in corporate life and in academic life, I've done too many professional development programs that I can count. Some of which maybe had 5 minutes of value in a 3 or a 5 hour program. I found the CLI program to be the single most enjoyable and beneficial program I had ever participated in. What I found was it was a great way to learn about the Cape. You got to sit down with leaders, talk about issues and challenges that are going on here, a great way to network with people out here. And so when I saw the opportunity to be a part-time executive director there, I kind of jumped on it, and I was very fortunate to be able to get it. Because for me, what this program is really about is building the foundation and the skill set to create the next generation of leaders and to make this great place even better than it is. And I live kind of simply. It's when we all leave this place, our job is to make sure it's in good hands and it's better than it was. So that's kind of why I jumped in here. And it's been a blast since then. You're on mute, Bert.
Got me. I'm going to block out the landscapers. Tell us a little bit about Leadership Cape Cod, how it evolved from CLI, and you know, I think a lot of people are familiar with CLI. A lot of us know alumni who've been through CLI, but how's that evolution happened?
Well, one of the things that I got to step back a little bit with some history here. CLI has been around for 28 years.
Wow.
And for those of you who've not participated, it's a program that runs from January through June, every second week. It's a half-day long program where we connect current and future leaders to talk about issues, challenges, and opportunities in 11 key areas of life out here in the Cape. These range from healthcare to economy, to education, to government, legal system, arts, a little bit of everything. When the program is ended, and this is pretty much every single session, it was true when I took it in 2012, that the first question that people ask is, what's next? And the honest answer was there wasn't anything next. It was simply that program. And a few years ago, the board started talking about what else could CLI do? And we bounced around a lot of things about different programming, but came back to the subject that leadership was at the core of what we were doing. We're trying to enhance people's skills, develop leaders. And so in a little bit of in some conversations, we found that a lot of people out here, unless you were in CLI or knew someone who was in CLI, didn't really know what CLI meant. It was just 3 letters without any kind of meaning to it. So rather than focus on CLI, we wanted to focus on what the organization was about, which is leadership. So we rebranded to become Leadership Cape Cod. So now we're more of an organization rather than a simple program. And with that, we've taken a look at what other programming can we offer. And one of the things that we introduced a year or so ago was a leadership training program for people who serve or want to serve or are serving on nonprofit board of directors, roles and responsibilities. We run 4 sessions of those. We've sold them out at 25 people a session. It's been really good, and we're going to continue that through the year. We've got a lot of other programs in mind of what we're going to look at. We want to get involved in education a little bit. Want to get involved with younger professionals out here in the Cape, not CY, but let's say just a youth programming. Start to identify some leaders when they're in high school and see what we can do with those. Start to bring some of the senior executives from organizations together, see what we can collectively do in the region. But it all is about inspiring and develop and enhancing leadership skills in everybody out here.
Bob, tell us a little bit about some of the success stories of Leadership Cape Cod. And I think that, and I think you're part of one of the success stories, of that. So give us some insight into who's been through it and what's the impact.
We've got over 750 alumni through the 28 years we've been here. And if you look at the list, actually, if you want to check it out, it's on leadershipcapecod.org is the website. You can take a list. There's a list of people who participate in the program. But we've had a lot of people here that a lot of you know. Kristen O'Malley, who runs the Cape Cod Foundation, is an alumnus. Ray Tomasi from Gosnold. Stephanie Nettily, who is a VP of Clinical Operations over at Spalding. Laurel Hartman, who is the publisher of the Cape and Plymouth Business Magazine. We've had Mark Ells, who's the town manager of Barnstable, and a whole host of others. You can check it out on the website. And actually, Rob Cushion, who's here in the video, is also an alumni of a few years ago. So we kind of have touched every aspect of life out here. In terms of how it works, you're with 25 to 30 individuals in a pretty intense session over a period of 6 months. You get to know them well. Part of the program is also to work on a community service project together. You identify a nonprofit that you want to support that has some needs, and you as a group work to basically do something for that organization. For me personally, when I was involved, I got to meet people that I would not normally have had an access to meet. Through the group, I was able to make some connections into places like Hydroid and others. At this point, I was a dean at 4Cs, and I used some of those networks to help me build an engineering program for the college. So it really is kind of like LinkedIn small here on Cape Cod. It's Cape Cod's own little LinkedIn network. You know, you got all these people who are connected to all these other people, and you just use that network to build out. And we've done a great job of keeping people together. I can tell you that people form really strong friendships out of this. I still see the people I went with in 2012 regularly. They're some of my best friends. And people can tell you that it's changed their life. It's an interesting group because when we say Leadership Cape Cod and we talk about the Community Leadership Institute, it doesn't so much focus on leadership training. It focuses on Cape Cod and what's really going on here. So you get to really look really hard at what the Cape's about. And for a lot of us, even I'm a Wash Ashore, but even those who've grown up here always find something new that they didn't know about Cape Cod when they go through this. So it's always it offers you an opportunity to see the world from a different perspective. But there are lots of success stories. If you go down that list, I'm sure if you know somebody, you can ask him. It's the same thing.
You know, it's stunning, I think, the number of folks that have gone through the CLI program and now the Leadership Cape Cod program. And, you know, you touched on something that's really, really cool about the Cape, and it's the who knew factor. You know, I mean, we have this with the Tech Council. We'll come across somebody who's developing, circuit boards for robotic controllers, in his basement in Harwich. You know, there's all kinds of things that are happening here that you don't realize. And this seems to be a wonderful way of, reaching out and bringing people together and reaching out and really understanding what's happening in the region. And that's a lot of what leadership is about, is it's having the knowledge to apply, and knowing where to push the buttons. So that being said, go ahead.
And in the CLI program, there's not a formal leadership training module, although we're going to be bringing that in as we move forward. But what it is sitting down and talking to people. As an example, Dorothy Savarese comes in and talks on our economics section pretty much every year. And she talks a lot about leadership from her perspective, what it is and how she leads. And even though we don't have a formal training aspect, we're hearing from leaders talking about their own personal experience, what makes it work for them, and what's important to them, and how they work with people in their organizations, and all the things that they've stumbled on, and all the things that they've fallen down on, but figured out how to get through it. So we're hearing from people that are right in the middle of everything.
Great. So again, folks, if you have a question, pop it into the chat. So for an organization that is built on convening future leaders and putting them out into the community, how have you been responding to the pandemic, and how has that impacted the organization?
Well, it's impacted us quite significantly, as it has every organization. We started this year's program, the 2020 program, in January. We suspended the program in mid-March. And after a lot of conversations with the group, we pushed it off until August, hoping that we could get back together face-to-face. Unfortunately, we're not, but we rebooted and we're back on Zoom. We did run a couple of Zoom programs in late spring. One of the things that we tried to do to keep the continuity and keep the group together is add some extra sessions where we brought in some people in the community who were in the middle of everything. We ran a session with Sean O'Brien, who runs the county health department, to talk about what was going on in the pandemic, what was going on in the county, how this is all working, so that we could all understand more about what was going on instead of just something we might read in the newspaper. We brought a couple of alumni in, Andrew Platt and Sonia Sheasley, who work for the county and were in the middle of the pandemic and the operations here. And we brought them in from the perspective of, how did the CLI program get you ready to do what you do? And so we've created an opportunity to connect other individuals who would not have been part of the program originally. We also brought some local government leaders in. We had Chris Flanagan from Dennis Board of Selectmen in talking about how towns are dealing with the pandemic and how they're dealing with loss of revenue. So we've kind of kept the string going, but it's been a little tough because this program is really based on that person-to-person contact. And there's only so many Zoom sessions that you can really build on. So we're doing it well. We're learning every day. We have great feedback from our class. And we have made the decision that because of the nature of the pandemic and the uncertainties we face, the 2021 program will be completely virtual. I did see that there was a question that popped up in the chat about an application criteria. Essentially, there is an application. We'll be going live on our website. That's leadershipcapecod.org within a couple of weeks, accepting applications for next year's program.
Great. And what about the, like, for example, the board training program? How does one sign up for that?
Again, it'll be posted on the website and social media. What we do is it's just an application. There's a minor fee to join it, but it's not anything that's significant. What we do, though, in that case is we spend, it's a 3-hour class, and we spend a lot of time talking about the 10 most important roles and responsibility for nonprofit board members. What we do then is we break the group into boards, and we provide a couple of different scenarios to each board, and we ask them to take a look at those scenarios with what they've just learned and what they would do as board members. And this program actually came about by talking to a lot of stakeholders here, people who are on boards or who support boards, and found that a lot of people, when they get on boards, most boards don't have any kind of formal orientation or any kind of formal training. You just simply join, and you try to figure out what you're supposed to do and what's involved in this. So we want to formalize a little bit, knowing that there's 1,400 different nonprofits out here, all with their board. We needed to make sure that those people that are on those boards understand what their job is. They are fiduciary responsibility for the finances, their responsibility for the strategic direction, and most importantly, they're responsible for mission and making sure that the focus of every activity is on that mission. So that's what we kind of talk about when we go through that training program.
How does Leadership Cape Cod sustain itself? So, I mean, you have, I don't imagine you have a huge budget, but you are the executive director, and I know that you have a big heart, but you also have needs. So they're funding you. There are other costs for the organization. How is the organization funded? Where does the revenue come from?
There's revenue from fees that we charge to participate in the program. The CLI program itself, for this coming year, the cost is $795 to participate. Our board training up to this point has been $25 to participate in that program. So those are sources of income for us. We also look for sponsors, people to sponsor the program, for donations. We apply for grants. And in this world, as you know, it's getting harder and harder, but we look for people who are similar in terms of their mission. And we look for those to help support us and to spread the message and to kind of enhance the skills of people in the region. So we go to places like Cape Cod 5. We go to places like Chef Chepley and others and talk to them about what we're trying to do and find some common ground and hope that we can get them to be part of one of our sponsors for one of our programs.
Sure. What do you like best about what you do?
Everything. I know that sounds crazy, but it's really pretty amazing when you start a class and you're talking to 25 different people who don't know each other by and large. They may have recognized a name or two. And by the time you're done, you have this cohesive group who are so engaged and they don't want to leave. It's actually a very cool feeling. Reaching out, talking to people, getting speakers is challenging, but also great, because once people who if they haven't spoken or they don't know you, when you start talking about what the program is about, you can really get them engaging and really becomes a great event. I'll give you a feel for some of the people we've had. This year on our arts session. We had David Keene from the Katuitt Center for the Arts, Julie Wakefield from the Arts Foundation. We had George Shar, who is a musician and a music teacher at Falmouth Academy. And we had Jackie DeRuiter, who is the director of the Cape Cod Conservatory. When we talked about our economics session, we had Steve Johnson from Open Cape. We had, I'm going to get his name wrong because it's, I don't always, where is he here? John Agerbach from Cape Cod Coffee, Dave Troutman from Sasua Cafe, Amanda Converse from Live Live Local, and Kara Gavin from Mass Hire, talking about job opportunities out here. So we bring people in from different areas to talk about their perspectives. And what we normally do is the speaker speaks for 25, 30 minutes. We have a Q&A, we have breakout rooms, and everybody gets to spend some time one-on-one with the speaker. So it's a great event. So for me, it's the part I like is getting it all together. And it's that thing about, you know, don't you love it when a plan comes together, seeing the whole thing take shape. I particularly like the board training for people who want to be on nonprofit boards. Having been on nonprofit boards, served on them for a very long time, I understand that a lot of people simply don't know what their expectations are. And people don't always understand that the success or the failure of that organization depends on their actions and what they do. And it's not just something to polish your resume. It's a very serious role to take. So getting people in and helping them understand what it is they need to do, for me, is the best thing. It's been a lot of fun to build it and a lot of fun to do it.
When is the next board training session?
It will probably be sometime in late October. We haven't set the date yet. I expect we'll be setting dates in the next week.
Well, we have a new board member for the Tech Council, so maybe we'll send them along to you.
The other thing that we do for people who have sitting boards is we'll do the training with your board. So we'll bring it to you rather than you coming to us as well.
So you would do like a session specifically for one board?
Yes. In those kind of sessions, we kind of drill down a little bit to make sure that everybody understands finances. We're not going to teach an accounting course, but make sure that everybody knows the basic, so when you're talking about your finance report, everybody understands what it is you're actually talking about.
Sure. So a question from the chat from Brian. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the speaker bureau on your website? Where are your speakers coming from, and are you looking for more speakers with some specific topics or subject areas?
Yes, we're looking for new speakers and more speakers. The speaker bureau it serves two purposes. It helps us identify people who we could use as speakers in our programming. But one of the things that we would like to do is offer opportunities for the community at large to hear from speakers. We haven't really moved down that path right yet because of COVID and everything that's going on, but that was actually set up so that we could find some areas that would be interesting to the general community and provide speakers for that. So if you have specific questions for that, just feel free to give me a call when we're done here.
Okay.
And my contact information is on the website.
Great. So let's talk about you a little bit, Bob. You mentioned you're from Troy, New York originally.
Troy, New York, the Collar City, yes.
Right. In fact, I think there's somebody here on the chat who went to school in Troy, New York. And
I did. I recognize that face, yes.
And actually, I was accepted to RPI, but I didn't go. I went to UNH instead. May have been silly, but that was how it went at the time. But there's a Red Sox story about your New York experience.
Yeah, I was probably the only Red Sox fan in Troy, New York when I was growing up. And it's my next door neighbor was a diehard Yankee fan, and at 10 was and still is the most obnoxious Yankee fan I've ever known in my life. And he detested the Red Sox fan. So at 10, what was I to do as his neighbor? I was going to become a Red Sox fan, and I did. And then I went to St. Mike's in Winooski, Vermont for college and lived with a bunch of guys who grew up in Boston. spent a lot of time in Boston, became a more ardent Red Sox fan. And it turns out I spent after every spring term, we would head to the Cape. We'd spend a week out here. So I got more and more into the Cape, and I kind of started to move east. Actually, when I landed in Stamford, Connecticut, I think I was the only one in Stamford, Connecticut who had a reserved copy of the Sunday Boston Globe, because I just wanted to read the sports pages, because it was and still is the best sports section around. So yeah, I kind of got there. But and the irony of all that, being a Red Sox fan, in my job corporate-wise, I would travel a lot. And in 2004, when they were in the World Series, I was in London on business, and the only thing I saw was the scores on the little ticker at the bottom of CNN International. So it was somewhat disheartening.
It's too bad. It was quite a year.
Yes, it was quite a year. But as I moved, I went from Troy to working in Stamford, Connecticut, to working in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, coming back out here to Dennis. And as I kept coming east, I found more and more Red Sox fans. So it's much more comfortable environment, let's say much more friendly environment. Although I do still have some competitive conversations with some of my friends who are Yankee fans.
Yeah.
Not this year though.
Is baseball even being played this year? It doesn't seem like it.
Not in Boston.
Not in Boston. What's your favorite place on Cape Cod?
Two, actually. Mayflower Beach and Cold Storage Beach in Dennis.
What makes them your favorite places?
You can get lost. At low tide, you can walk forever, and it's very peaceful. It's kind of a place I can reset. When I started coming out here, my daughter and I came out here on vacation for the first, for about 18 years. And we've always went to Dennis on the Bayside. It's kind of feels like home to me. And so it's kind of where I hang out when I've got nothing else to do, which is very rare. Although I do find that I do find myself heading on golf courses occasionally.
So we got a question in the chat. If you could address a little bit more about some of the virtual training that you're doing. Nobody wants to go exclusively virtual for the long run, but it's going to be the part of the mix for what we have going forward. How do you see Leadership Cape Cod adopting for the virtual training process for your 2021 program?
Well, I think it's going to be, we're going to try to do a number of things. We're going to have some videotape segments so people can, you don't have to sit in front of your computer all day long. We're still going to have the session with the speakers. We're going to be taking a lot more breaks than we ever have in these sessions. Probably break after every speaker. We're going to be using the breakout room features and things like Zoom. One of the things we're going to try to do is virtual tours. One of the things that we've done historically in the program is every session has been in a different location around the Cape. We do our healthcare session at Spalding the last few years. So one of the things we're talking about is to locations who've hosted us in the past, would they like to do a walkthrough virtual tour during the course of the session? So we're looking for different ways that we can connect. We're trying to engage our alumni to bring them into some of the sessions to talk a little bit about what they learned and what they're doing now and how we can bring it all up. So it's a matter of it's kind of a trial and error piece where we're trying to bring more in, but at the same time trying to not make it so dependent upon the technology, but still find a way to give contacts with individual people. We are still going to do our service projects, and that's going to be a little cumbersome. That's going to be challenging, but it's about finding different ways to do the same thing, and it's finding ways that can still engage people and keep them involved, and not just be staring at a screen for 3.5 hours or 4 hours at a time. I don't know if that answers your question. I think we're still trying to find our way through some of these things.
Sure. I appreciate that. And I'll just throw it out there. Are there other questions for Bob from anybody in our audience here?
I got a couple. Bob, can you go back to the question about the application process? Are there criteria for acceptance?
Is there criteria? No, in the sense you don't have to have this degree or that background or that education or whatever. The criteria is really about who you are, what you've done, what you like to do, where leadership fits into your life, and what can you bring to the program and what do you want to take away from the program. All the applicants, the applications are reviewed by our board of directors. They make those decisions on the applicants, and then we move forward. But it really is, what we're trying to do is bring people in who can benefit, but can also contribute, and ultimately can contribute once they complete the program.
Okay, great. And then can you just talk a little bit more when you say the program? So I'm looking at your website and I see a lot of programs under programs. So could you maybe just sort of run through them? And when you say the program, I assume there's sort of like a key central program that you're referring to, but you have others.
When I said the program, I was specifically to the question of the application. That would be to the CLI program, the Community Leadership Program, which is the core program of Leadership Cape Cod.
Oh, so that's the only one that requires an application?
Well, yes, but you have to register for like the board training program, but the Community Leadership Program, or CLI, is the only one that requires an application.
Okay.
The rest you simply sign up for when the program is announced.
Okay, and
I'm sorry, because I've fallen into the same trap that we've fallen into historically. I think about CLI, but we're not just CLI any longer. We are Leadership Cape Cod, and we have multiple programs that are coming out of things.
Yeah, and do you mind just doing a quick run through of the other programs?
Well, the other programs are kind of in the development phase, with the exception of the nonprofit board training. The other ones we talk about, we want to kind of duplicate the CLI project for teachers. One of the things we find with teachers here, a lot of them who get hired and move out to the Cape find that they're very much involved in their school, but that's about it. They don't create a network, and particularly some of the younger ones, leave. So we're going to try to build a CLI type program to kind of connect teachers within different districts and try to help them to build a community. We like to bring in talking about senior leaders from organizations, get them together in a roundtable type discussion to see how we can collectively solve some of the issues that are out here. Those are the type of things that we're looking to do. Right now, the only programs that we are actively doing are the CLI and the nonprofit board training. The nonprofit board training is expanding into a boot camp, and that kind of goes back to a comment I made to Bert earlier about where we will work with a sitting board to help them work better together and to help them understand what it is they really need to do and how they should be doing it.
And I'm sorry, did you already say this? Do you have a date scheduled for that next nonprofit board program?
We do not. It'll be in late October. The date will be set probably early next week.
Great.
Bob, will the group project model continue in 2021?
Yes, it will. I can tell you one of the things that what's happened this year is we start with in this case, we had 26 individuals this year's class. So we started with 5 different group projects. We kind of put them on hold because a lot of them were directly related to a face-to-face contact with an organization. We've now moved to a single group project where we're looking at the organization doing PSAs, and the group itself they're looking at trying to help to educate people in what systematic racism is. And that's what they're trying to do through a PSA and some type of educational program. So we are going to keep the group project. It will probably have to be virtual for at least the near future. And our goal as we move through this is to find programs, or sign projects rather, that have legs to them so that they don't end when the program ends. If we can spin off and create other organizations that can take that project on, or we can combine it with an existing nonprofit, or we can integrate it into another existing nonprofit, that's the type of thing we want to do. We don't want to just run the group project and have it stop. And that's one of the things that has historically we've done. When I was running it, when I was taking part in it, my group focused on doing a project in support of the Harwich Food Pantry. When our program ended, that project ended. And it kind of seems like it shouldn't. So we're trying to build things that are sustainable, that they can take on and grow from the original concept.
Are there other groups around the region or the country that serve as a model for the?
There are. There's an association called the Association of Leadership Programming. We are a member. It's similar organizations throughout the country. I work very closely with a group in Hartford, Connecticut. I've talked to people in Arizona, Cleveland, Oklahoma, West Coast, Florida. We meet regularly to talk about programming that we're doing. There are 5 other programs in the state of Massachusetts also. So we meet and talk about what we do. We kind of leverage each other's knowledge. We beg, borrow, and steal different programming ideas from people. We work together to build, and it's really a very active network. If you want to see it, it's ALP.org, Association of Leadership Programming. It's actually really effective programming. When all this, when the pandemic started, the organization actually started a series of Zoom programs specifically for organizations like us, so we could work together to learn how other people were adapting and how we could adapt our own programs. So it's a very large resource base for us.
Thank you. Will, you had a question?
I do,
Hello,
Bob.
Will.
Bob, it's great to see you.
You too.
I'm looping back, and again, if I missed it, I apologize for that. But on the nonprofit board leadership, I'm taking a nonprofit group from pilot to full status, and building that cohesiveness of the board would be good. Is this a one session opportunity, or is this a multi-week kind of a deal?
The program as it sits now is a 1-session, 3-hour program.
Okay.
If we get into a board boot camp, that can be a little more depending on what that organization wants to do. But the nonprofit, the program that's for leadership of nonprofit board members is a 3-hour program.
All right. Terrific. I'm going to do what I can to bring 8 people to the next one.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Bob, what can people do to be notified when these programs are scheduled? Is there a mailing list that we can join?
Yeah, we have a mailing list that's primarily of alumni right now, but if there's people who want to be put on it, we can put you on it. You do have social media. You know, it's announced on our Facebook page. It's announced on our websites. We're Twitter and Instagram and everything else out there. It's rolling through. So if there are people who really want to be on a mailing list, we can certainly make those accommodations to do that. I'm happy to do it. And anyone can feel free to call me anytime they want. It's I'm happy to share and talk about what the programs are, and a lot of this is personal connection. So we just kind of spread the word around through our own networks.
Okay. And if people want to contact you, Bob, how should they do that?
Well, there's 2 ways. They can get me through email, which is rcody@leadershipcapecod.org. And my cell phone is on 24 hours a day, so feel free to give me a call. And that is 203-209-9994. So just give me a holler. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Robin, you want to
Put
pop?
those in the chat.
You already did. You read my mind. So Bob, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
If you haven't participated in the program, come and participate in it. I think you're going to really enjoy it. I think the thing is we're all in this together. So if you have thoughts of what we could do, what we could do better, what programming you might like to see, please give me a call and let me know.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that Leadership Cape Cod does. I've met so many people who've been through the program, and they really are just wonderful assets to our community. So keep up the good work. There's some great information in the chat. If you want to grab the chat before we are finished, you can click on the little 3 dots on your chat window and download the chat and save it, so you've got all that content saved for after the fact. We've got, again, First Fridays next week. You can sign up for that on our website, as well as Dr. Tom Fredo on the 9th and Cape Light Compact on the 16th for our coffee chat. So I want to thank everybody for being here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. And if you have any questions about the Tech Council, feel free to reach out to myself or Robin or any of our board members. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Bert.
Thanks, Bob.